Jalen Carter's road to NFL stardom didn't begin with a draft party. It began with a mugshot. Just weeks before the biggest moment of his life, Carter turned himself into the police. His dreams of a football career suddenly uncertain. His reputation seemingly irreparable. Fast forward 2 years and those dreams aren't just back on track, they've been fully realized. The freaky defensive tackle has been a force to be reckoned with on the gridiron, playing a pivotal role in helping Philly capture their second Lombardi Trophy. But the journey to get here was far from straightforward. This is Jalen Carter's amazing journey from controversy to championship glory. Jalen Carter was born in Apopka, Florida in 2001 and raised primarily by his mother, Tonique Brown. It was a social upbringing for young Jalen, who found himself regularly hanging out at his mother's daycare center. His role as one of the biggest kids there was to tire them out and prepare them for nap time. What he didn't realize then was that his size would soon become a major asset for another reason, serving him well on the football field at Apopka High School. This was an ideal school for Carter to attend, known for its football acumen, having churned out defensive stars such as Warren Sapp and Trey Hendrickson. And while Jalen's size made him an obvious candidate for trench play, it didn't mean he wasn't a freaky athlete as well. You don't get many lads his size showing off windmill dunks on the basketball court or securing acrobatic Odell Beckham-like catches in the end zone. No, this guy was different, and he remained a standout throughout his entire career. Jalen's first taste of football action came as a lead blocker in a single wing offense for Apopka High School, and, to quote the team strength coach, he was just crushing people. He eventually moved to the interior of the defensive line as a senior, where he was just as effective, to the extent that his coaches had to ask him to ease off in practice to give the offense a chance. Having saved so much energy in practice, Carter was fully unleashed when it came to game time, racking up 64 tackles, 12 sacks, and a touchdown in that senior season. This was enough to make him a 5-star recruit and the 18th overall player in his class, essentially meaning he could play his college ball wherever he wanted to. Ultimately, he opted to join Georgia. And why not? Their Bulldogs were known for having the best defense in the nation. After playing in a rotational role as a freshman, Carter eventually got his chance to properly show what he could do in 2021, at which point it was clear the Bulldogs had another defensive star. His quality combination of speed and power was clear for everyone to see, quickly making himself a key cog in a formidable Georgia defense that conceded just 10.4 points per game. Unsurprisingly, that was best in the nation, coming in a whopping 5.4 points per game, less than Clemson in second, at 15.8 points per game. It didn't matter who was going up against him. Jalen always had an answer. He could use his power to charge through an offensive lineman or his quick feet to scoot around them. The one constant was Jalen Carter disrupting a play. He finished the year with 37 tackles and 3 sacks, earning him a spot on the second team All-SEC roster for his efforts. More importantly, he helped power the Bulldogs to national championship glory. Then, ranking as a top 5 defense yet again in 2022, the Bulldogs stormed straight back to the national championship game, this time downing TCU by a whopping 65 points to 7. to earn back-to-back titles. In addition to the team's success, Carter was named a unanimous All-American for his 32 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and even 3 pass breakups. While those numbers might not stand out as particularly eye-popping, there are a couple things to remember. First of all, defensive tackles are not exactly known for racking up huge numbers. And second of all, Carter was operating in a defense where Kirby Smart liked to rotate his linemen. For context, Carter played just 392 snaps in the 2022 season. In comparison, Jerzon Newton, who would go in the first round 1 year later, played 723 snaps. That's almost double. The reality was that Jalen Carter was the ultimate bully at the heart of one of the greatest defenses in college football history. He had consistent success going through or around his opponents, was a lethal pass rusher, and could absolutely shut down the run. That's everything you could possibly ask for from a defensive tackle, and he did it with the vicious tenacity that all NFL teams want to see. Add in the national championship success and experience, and Jalen Carter was a lock for going very highly in the 2023 draft. At least, that was the case until reports began to circle that Carter had handed himself into the police on March 1st, 2023, just weeks before draft night. As it turned out, Jalen Carter had been charged with reckless driving and street racing, associated with a tragic incident that had seen his teammate Devin Willock and Georgia staff member Chandler LaCroix both lose their lives. These were celebrations gone disastrously wrong, and Carter was lucky to walk away with his life, let alone his career, still intact. Thankfully for Jalen, his car stayed upright, whereas the car driven by LaCroix did not, tragically killing her and Willock. Carter eventually pleaded no contest and was given 12 months probation along with a $1,000 fine and an order to complete 80 hours of community service and a driving course. Lucky to be alive, Carter was allowed to continue with the draft process, but the incident had no doubt affected his mental state and his draft stock. He turned up to his pro day 9 pounds heavier than at the combine and couldn't even finish his position drills. Now, instead of lauding his talents, draft analysts and scouts were highlighting his character as a giant red flag. Todd McShay went on ESPN and said, "It's not about his talent, about his size, or his explosive takeoff and finishing as a pass rusher. It's about the character. Do we want to bring that guy into the building?" This was a low point for a player who everyone knew could be special. So his former high school coach, Hunter Wood, challenged him to reset, forget about everything that had happened, and simply focus on what his goals were for the future. When reflecting on this, Wood told ESPN, somehow or another, he developed a chip on his shoulder about things he wanted to get done this year. No matter how much Carter had managed to reset his mindset, the NFL were wary of what they had seen, leading him to fall outside of the top 5 of the 2023 NFL Draft. Eventually, he heard his name called as the 9th overall pick. He would be heading to Philadelphia, who traded up to select him. This couldn't have been a better spot for Carter. Not only would he be joining a team that just played in a Super Bowl, but he would be lining up alongside Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, and Kelee Ringo, all former Georgia Bulldogs. As part of Philadelphia's recreated Bulldogs defense, Carter continued to be a menace. He notched a sack in his debut against New England before finding the quarterback twice against the Rams a month later. His production tailed off a bit in the second half of the season as the Eagles themselves collapsed in dramatic fashion. But he still found himself second in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting, thanks to his impressive 6-sack effort. The Eagles had already been vindicated for their decision to make him their draft choice at 9th overall. But things were taken to the next level in 2024. Defensive mastermind Vic Fangio arrived to salvage the defensive mess that had been inflicted on the team in 2023, and proving them from the 30th ranked scoring defense, conceding 25.6 points per game, to the second best, conceding just 17.8 points per game in 2024. Carter was a force in the trenches, already demanding double teams, yet still finding ways to disrupt the game. With the defense now all singing from the same song sheet, Philly marched to a 14-3 record, with Carter posting 42 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 6 passes defensed. For his efforts, he was named a second-team All-Pro, but the bigger prize came in the postseason. Carter and company propelled Philadelphia all the way through the playoffs, with Carter in particular thriving with 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and a forced fumble in a tight defensive round clash against the Rams. Then, in Super Bowl 59, against the three-peat hunting Kansas City Chiefs, the underdog Eagles embarrassed their opponents, storming to a 40-22 victory. Jalen Carter had reached the pinnacle of the sport. Just 2 years earlier, he was overcoming the mental anguish of his arrest and struggling to complete his pro day. Now, he stands tall as already one of the most feared defensive players in the NFL, boasting a Super Bowl ring that can sit nicely alongside his 2 national championship successes. His story is one of resilience and sheer brutal quality, proving that no matter what life throws at you, there is still an opportunity to become legendary. But how good do you think Carter will be at the end of his career? Let us know in the comments.